Hello and welcome to the Overland Journal podcast. I am your host, Scott Brady, fresh back from a little sailing expedition, and I'm here with my co-host, Matt Scott.
Who kept his did not get sea legs. I stayed on dry land where I belong.
That was actually the most bizarre part of it, was after almost a month at sea, getting back on dry land. Now I know why Jack Sparrow walks the way that he does, and pirates do. They talk about a drunken sailor. You're not drunk. You just can't walk yet. So, yeah, it was. Oh, and then you wake up in the middle of the night, because I'd been on a sailboat for that long. And I was in a hotel room and I woke up in the middle of the night and the whole room was moving like the boat was. It's just, you don't get used to it. It takes about a week to stop falling all over yourself.
My question is how does that translate to going to the bathroom? Did you have your first solid on solid ground? And you're did you have to book a handicap suite? So you're
that would have been a good idea. That would have been a really good idea.
Thanks to this week's sponsor, GCI Outdoor. Whether you're heading out for a weekend of adventure in the woods or to your backyard fire pit, GCI Outdoor gear is ready for whatever you have planned. GCI Outdoor has been around for 25 years, so they know what they're doing when it comes to the best in portable recreation gear. GCI has innovative products ranging from outdoor rockers to complete camp kitchens and everything in between. And with a limited lifetime warranty, they stand behind everything they make. GCI Outdoor gear is comfortable, durable, and built for adventures, big and small. Try them out for yourself. Head over to their website at gcioutdoor.com and save 10% off your first purchase when you sign up for their email list. Thanks again, GCI.
Well, because going to the bathroom on the boat is a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all about triangulation. You're trying to
triangulate.
Yeah, you're trying to have many points of contact.
Yeah,
which of course becomes complicated when you're trying to go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I would have just went for an aqua bog. You're right on the ocean.
What is an aqua bog?
It is an Australian term for taking a in the water.
Oh, well, there you go, guys. This has been educational for all of our listeners.
Welcome to Australian Culture 101 with your host.
That sounds terrible.
Somebody who briefly lived there.
No, it was amazing. I mean, there are so many parallels to overland travel that we're going to talk about at a future episode. We'll get Brian McVickers, who is part of our team and was with me on the trip. And for those who want to kind of follow along with what's happening, it's on Instagram. It's at Kailani Expedition. The goal was to sail from Long Beach, so essentially Los Angeles. We sailed across the Pacific Ocean and we ended up at the Aleutian Islands and into the Bering Sea. And the team continued it on after I flew out, and they went on to the island of Attu, which is where they're at right now, which is both the westernmost and the easternmost point of the United States, because it's across the international date line.
Oh, cool.
And I think that's where Sarah Palin thought she could see Russia from, but it's that close. It's very close to Russia.
Huh.
Yeah. So, but it was a fascinating experience. It does get pretty rowdy in the Pacific, but it was not that bad.
Some of the videos that you were sending me, I was getting seasick in Prescott.
Yeah.
On my couch.
That'll be my one little tip that we'll talk about today, and then we'll get into more stuff on that podcast. But there is this relief. It's called a relief band. It's designed by Johnson & Johnson for cancer patients that are having nausea. But it works just as well for people who get seasick or get motion sickness in a car or whatever. It is a FDA approved device, and it works
for it.
Oh, you've used it. That's right.
You bought one. Yeah, that's right. Because
you make yourself sick in your car.
I now have the ability to make myself sick when I'm driving fast, which is
that's unfortunate.
I don't know
that's
how
unfortunate.
That worked out. I raced cars for 15 years straight.
You're getting old, man. You hit your 30s and things just go downhill.
It sucks, man. I just want to go back to a scooter and a backpack in Asia or something. But
you have that option.
My highly scientific, very scientific test. I, whilst hungover, went and drove with the worst driver I know, and I was fine.
Oh,
normally 30 seconds would have been a not fun time. Totally fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty basically amazing. The CDC. So I read it on Facebook.
Yeah, so it does apply to overlanding. Those of you who end up being a passenger in the vehicle and things are not going well and you're feeling sick, take a look at this relief band. We have no association other than the fact that it works. It just works great.
Now when she's not driving, We'll both kind of switch off using it.
It's like a little mini TENS unit that goes on your wrist, and it basically
looks like a Fitbit to me.
It does.
Mine looks like a Fitbit.
Yep.
So.
And it just kind of excites the vagus nerve in the wrist, which
the hand kind of
it tingles. Yeah, it tingles a little bit, but it just completely takes away the whole nausea thing. So that's how I made it across the Pacific without losing my lunch.
Yeah.
So
did you lose your lunch at all?
No, but which was a miracle. It's only because of this.
I bet Brian lost his lunch.
He didn't. No, he's he doesn't even wear it.
Brian's Mr. Sailor.
He is Mr. Sailor, man. Totally. So listen to a future episode when we talk about expedition sailing and how it translates. There was a lot that we learned. That translates over to overlanding as well.
Yeah,
so.
I saw you guys eating a lot of like tuna, fresh tuna.
We did. That was amazing. Yeah. We had sashimi and nigiri right there.
Looks like it sucks just as much as overlanding.
There's just less dirt and a better bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But waves.
Yeah. So you're still kind of moving around. It was rowdy.
25.
It was rowdy, but it was good. Yeah, it was great.
Awesome.
And then in today's podcast, we're going to talk about something a little bit unusual, but it actually predates four-wheel drive overland vehicles. And that is driving in a two-wheel drive or driving in a car or a sedan.
Well, I'm going to go with car because some of the cars that I'm going to talk that I want to drive around the world,
they are four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. But they're non-traditional.
But the reason why we want to talk about this is to kind of reinforce what Matt and I do our very best in this podcast to do, which is to come back to this essence of overlanding, which is vehicle-based travel. And there have been families that have driven across Eurasia in the sedan that they used for daily commuting. In the UK, there are significant trips across the Sahara that have been done with deux chevaux. There have been trips around the world that have been done in the same Mercedes sedan that people use as a daily driver. So again, coming back to this idea that there are times that you absolutely do need a four-wheel drive if the conditions require it. But if you want to just go travel and see the world, most of the world has either paved routes or they have well-maintained dirt routes or they have drier dirt routes. I mean, how many times, Matt, have you and I been someplace remote? I mean, I've been
always a Toyota Corolla.
I know.
There's always a Toyota Corolla.
Exactly. I've been in like low range and a Mercedes G-Wagon feeling like I'm articulating or whatever. Legend. And then here comes like a bunch of locals and a Tercel. Yeah. And then when they get to a tough spot, they all hop out and they all push. And then they get through it and they keep going on their way. So if the goal is travel, if the goal is to just go see the world and hopefully in an inexpensive of a way as possible, a car can be a great solution for that.
Well, and I've kind of touched on before, not everyone around, I feel that overland travelers that have not yet left America kind of get this idea that I have to have a Defender. I have to have a Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
Well, no, those are very expensive vehicles in America, which is the cheapest car market in the world.
Yeah.
A Land Cruiser 200 series in Australia is twice as much as it is here.
It is. Yeah. Very expensive.
Nearly twice as much. I mean, I'm generalizing. Most people drive cars.
Yeah.
Most people don't even have a Toyota Hilux. Toyota Hilux is like the fancy car.
Yeah.
They'll have I don't know what's worse, a Nissan.
Yeah.
Or they'll have
you'll typically
SsangYong, or they'll have a Great Wall, or they'll have, in a lot of those vehicles, like the Great Wall, it's a Chinese company that buys the tooling from GM out of Thailand when they're done making the Colorado. So the next generation Great Wall is going to look like the current generation Colorado, as the last generation Colorado is now Great Wall. You see a lot of that stuff, but you also see a lot of people that can't even afford that. And now I'm not trying to paint this picture that the rest of the world is impoverished and America is the shining beacon in the world because we have so much poverty here and homelessness. But Corollas, like what's that Nissan that's used like everywhere for taxis?
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? It's like it's
almost like a Versa
mid 90s Sentra or something. Like
totally.
I've seen those things everywhere.
Yeah.
Like places that you could like barely like walk down. Now, I'm not saying that they're like extraordinarily capable. It's just that when that's what you have, their house is over there
and they're light.
Yeah.
Most of them are front wheel drive, which is going to be better than a rear wheel drive truck in most cases. Right. So let's talk about some of the other upsides of the car. The initial investment is very, very
way lower,
very, very low. They get excellent fuel economy. So the cost of your fuel on your travels is much less. The other upside is you completely blend in. Like you no longer have this four-wheel drive that has like that everybody notices.
Yeah.
Which even if you just think about security and safety aside, just the fact that you could roll into a little village and not create so much attention, where you can let people just go about their life and they're not seeing this expedition vehicle descend upon their little town. You're just another Mercedes diesel sedan that the taxi guy uses in the same town. And you come in and you're likely to be able to find parts for it. And it's going to fly under the radar. You're not going to worry about the thing getting stolen. And I think that there's a lot of advantages to that.
I love the old Mercedes wagons.
The W123s.
Yeah. I know this lovely, lovely Spanish guy. Super nice. He lives in Dubai now. He's kind of into the classic car thing. He did Central and South America. I think he actually rolled his car in like Venezuela or something. He got hit. But he was in a little Mercedes wagon and loved it. I have to say that it's a very romantic idea to take the Mercedes wagon or the kind of the vintage classic car. I mean, you're not going to find parts.
Yeah.
For stuff like that. Mercedes is kind of the oddball because you can still, they kind of go further back with servicing their vehicles.
They do.
And they have that worldwide parts network that is fantastic. But Kias, Hyundais, cheap cars that you can buy here are cheap because they're the same cheap car that you can buy everywhere and they share the same parts.
And that would probably be a thing to start with, is look for a vehicle that's available in the United States that's also sold in many other countries. Yeah. And that's probably like an example of one that's a little older, is you can get these turbocharged and normally aspirated diesel Mercedes sedans. I've seen them for sale for $3, $4, $5 grand.
They're made well.
They have an OM motor in them. They're made very well. They have an independent rear suspension. You can put a limited slip differential in the back. Not many who listen to this may know Chris Scott, but Chris Scott is literally one of the OG Overlanders. He has a great series of books. Yeah, he wrote a series of Bibles about overlanding, extensive travels throughout Northern Africa. And he did a lot of long trips throughout the Sahara, including sand tracks in W123 and other variants of the Mercedes sedans. And he would put a very small coil lift on them, like maybe about an inch or so, a slightly taller tire, steel wheels, limited slip differential in the back. He would add some very light skid plating underneath to protect the sump and a couple other things. Yeah. And he drove around Northern Africa in the same thing that the taxi guy drives. So you're totally under the radar.
We did like 100 or so miles of the old Dakar course in Morocco. And I think it was a Dacia.
Yeah, there you go. Dacia Duster. Yeah.
It wasn't a Duster. It was I call it the African Corolla. It had like a 90 liter fuel tank and a little turbo diesel. And it looked like a lifted Corolla.
Yeah. Perfect.
It did great.
Yeah.
Like, I had fun. It was cool. It was a rental car. It was the most capable car on the old Dakar course in Morocco that day.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. We saw very few other people.
Well, what do they say? Every rental car is a four-wheel drive.
Yeah. Well, what's the fastest car? Rental car. What's the best car off-road? A rental car. Exactly. Unless you're renting from Nina Barlow, who's very nice, and please don't wreck her rental cars.
Yeah, that's right. That's the one exception.
Yeah. But otherwise, rental cars, very capable.
Incredibly capable off-road.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of upside to this whole idea of a car. And I think that they get underserved in this idea of doing trips around the world. And if we go back in time, if we go back historically, I mean, Aloha Wanderwell, her 1920s trip around the world. It was the first female to drive around the world. She did it in a Model T. Again, two-wheel drive vehicle. And the roads, I suspect, back then were pretty rough.
Yeah.
They were probably pretty bad.
Probably not so great. The congestion probably wasn't that bad.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you didn't have to worry about traffic as much. But I remember when I was getting ready to go on the ferry in France to go over to Tangiers for the Outback Challenge race. And I've got this race prepped Land Cruiser. We're ready to go do this amazing adventure. And all of these little Duchevaux, these little Citroen, they're Citroen, right? Or who makes the Duchevaux?
Yeah, the 2CV.
Yeah, Duchevaux. And then they all line up on the same ferry, and they're going to go basically on the same route. I mean,
are they
some exceptions?
You?
Yeah, they were. Well, yeah,
that's kind of what I want to do. Is I just want to
we should just troll other overlanders with Duchevaux.
Let's take Laura's Subaru and go to the Mojave Road.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be too easy, but.
But a Subaru is a great example.
Yeah.
Now that we're moving kind of into this idea of the all-wheel drives, but we have seen more and more aftermarket support for the Subarus. And I think they look great. They got fun little motors in them.
Real cool. So Laura, my fiance, she has a Subaru Crosstrek. Great car, very well made. Does not have enough power to run the AC sufficiently.
Oh.
Nor does it have enough power to accelerate in a way that I feel is acceptable.
Yeah.
But she loves it. She loves it.
But if you think, so let's think an 80
you gotta
kilometer.
Leave them stock.
Yeah.
You got to leave them stock
That's
because
true.
she gets 30.8 miles a gallon. I know this because it hasn't changed. But I've talked to people that have lifted these. They do modest tires or they'll do bumpers or this. I've talked to guys that get 11 miles to the gallon
out of a Subaru. Yeah.
Because they're just so heavy and dogged down.
So that's the key. If you do decide to travel in a Subaru, maybe consider some skid plates.
Yeah.
Maybe consider a slightly uprated spring. Yeah. Definitely keep the weight off the top. When you see a roof tent on the Subaru, bad idea.
Yeah.
It's just going to greatly affect fuel economy. And then you might as well just take a Tacoma with you.
Take a Tacoma or a 4Runner. I mean, that's the conclusion that I've come to.
Very, very modest modifications.
I've had a lot of people ask me, I want to lift my Subaru. And I'm like, what are you trying to do with it?
Yeah.
Because a stock 4Runner is going to be better at everything and get better gas mileage.
Yeah. Once you over modify those Subarus, then they really struggle. Yeah. And then the transmissions get hot. They don't have any low range.
CVTs. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're fun. They're great. I get why people do it. I don't get why people modify them incredibly extensively.
But isn't that the case for all of us, right? Like we all I think about my Tacoma, my first Tacoma.
Black.
Yeah. I completely over modified
your first
that.
Tacoma was fine.
It was 7,000 pounds. It was terrible.
I always run into these Tacomas on the trail that will they weigh as much as a full size truck and then they get worse gas mileage, fuel economy.
So I think it's that same path. Like you start off with a Tacoma. When it's stock, it's super capable. It exceeds all your expectations. It gets pretty good gas mileage. Yeah. It's super reliable. And then you start to try to make it something like an expedition vehicle and they're not suited for that once they get heavy.
Yeah.
If you keep them really light, then take them around the world. Absolutely. But it's the same thing, I think, for the Subaru. If you get like a Forester, lots of space on the inside, you could easily sleep inside it. Maybe you uprate the springs a little bit to give you just a little bit more clearance.
See, I look at it the opposite way. I don't think that you touch the Subaru. I think the Subaru is the factory upgraded car that you want.
Yeah, true.
So if you were to take the Mercedes or the, whatever car.
Corolla, yeah.
Corolla. And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to bigger this, a little bit more of this, whatever. No, that's just a stock Subaru. A stock Subaru has like 8 to 9 inches of ground clearance.
9 inches, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I think
that's a good point.
You just leave it and then you drive it.
Yeah.
And then you drive it back. And then it's just another Subaru
that you get to go sell on eBay.
Drive into the ground.
Yeah.
And it goes to like that place in Oregon where all Subarus go, where they're fed kombucha and IPAs. Very Oregon.
Yeah.
That's where all Subarus go.
I didn't know that.
Cats go to the farm. Subarus go to Oregon. Sorry.
That's going to trigger some people. Some people have had their parents tell them that the cat was going to the farm. It didn't go to the farm.
I was told that the cat was going to the farm. And then I found out it actually did go to a farm.
Like really? Did it really go to a farm?
Oh, and that's what my mom told me. And I'm realizing that maybe she was just trying to cover her tracks.
Yeah. Cats never go to the farm. I'm sorry.
So Kitty didn't go to the farm? Kitty didn't go to the farm. No, I just like to make fun of Oregon, mainly because of Caleb Wallace, who's a friend of mine that now works for me. He's from Oregon and he's young. So he catches all of the flack in our office.
All of the Oregon jokes.
And he drinks kombucha, which is, don't you drink kombucha?
Yeah, sometimes. Like when I feel like my gut needs a little boost. I don't know. That's what I tell myself. Because they don't really taste that good. So you hope that what you're doing is healthy.
So I do those Yakult probiotic things.
Because we're getting older, Matt.
Well, okay. This is because I'm a sucker for advertising. Is we went to this baseball game in Tokyo like 2 years ago, and now I'm a fan of the Tokyo Yakult Swallows. Interesting thing. Every baseball player has their own song and chant, and it's wonderful. They have these little lovely Japanese girls that walk around with little beer kegs on their back.
Okay.
And then you get fresh draft beer.
Okay.
And like these lovely Japanese people were sharing snacks with us. It was the coolest experience ever.
So you went to a baseball game in Japan.
Oh yeah. We love going to baseball games in Japan.
I think that's would be amazing.
That's like one of my things that I'm doing post-COVID. Baseball game in Japan.
I would love to do that. That's
I have
a great
like all
idea.
these obscure Japanese baseball shirts. Like one of them's green and it has like the Yakult Swallows little bird on it and it has all this Japanese stuff. It could be like, I don't know what it says. It could be saying something very derogatory about me and I wouldn't know. Kind of like the you know, the tattoos that people get and like
the
Japanese
Chinese.
or Chinese. And it's like,
yeah, silly American or whatever it says on it.
Yeah.
That was my politically correct interpretation of that. Back to Subarus. So I do think that the Subaru is a good idea.
Yeah.
And you see them everywhere in the world.
Just get a stock Subaru. Make sure it doesn't have terrible tires on it.
Yeah. Quality tires.
Just like
put fuel in it.
Go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really actually quite simple.
So what other practical solutions would there be on the car side? I mean,
Bentley Continental GT.
Yeah, we got to get into the fun car ideas.
Yeah,
but
I don't want
let's
to talk
think
about boring stuff anymore.
Okay.
No, let's talk about boring stuff a little bit more.
I'm trying to think about, because there were some Tercels that were all-wheel drive. You know, there's
Astro vans.
Yeah, people have
minivans. Like, why don't
people have done some serious Astro van travel?
People wax poetic about taking a two-wheel drive Vanagon somewhere.
Yeah,
my friend Zach has this lifted Toyota Previa. He was like 18 when he got that thing.
Yeah,
probably from his mom because it's a Toyota Previa. He's done Smiley Rock. He's done like all these trails. He comes out with us. Get a Toyota Sienna for like, I don't know, $50 and a PS3. You could sleep inside of it.
And they would probably still run forever.
Forever, because those cars are meant to be neglected.
Yeah.
Because when you have like 12 screaming kids and like,
you're not thinking about oil changes.
A kid's just like, ooh, a door handle. Let's pour milk into it. Yeah. That is what the Toyota Sienna is made for. Therefore, it can't break.
Yeah, that's probably true. And the fact that it survived Zach to this point. Yeah.
Zach is a lovely young man.
He is a lovely young man.
Except that he's leaving me and he's going to school to be a Forest Service Ranger, which sounds awesome. National Park Ranger.
I know. It's going to be a sad state
We're
of
losing
affairs.
Zach. Zach works in our complex. What else is practical?
Yeah, I know we're struggling with this one. But there are all-wheel drive cars that are practical.
Asking unpractical people practical questions. We're asked about practical cars. We don't know anything about practical cars.
Yeah, we tried. We did try.
Okay, Bentley Continental GT?
Yeah.
Okay, so seriously, that's what I want to drive around the world. You can buy a very nice Bentley Continental GT right now.
For less than the price.
With 30,000 miles. For less than a Tacoma with 30,000 miles.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
Yeah, that's true. And then you just put like 2 Russian flags on the front of it and you just drive around the world like a Russian oligarch.
Yeah, or Jeremy Clarkson. Did you watch that Madagascar special?
No, I should have. Did he take a Bentley Continental GT?
He took a lifted Bentley Continental GT with 4 Max Trax Extremes on the top across Madagascar. And now he has it on his farm show and it like rips around the farm and it's been flawless. It's amazing.
That is amazing.
And I want it.
Yeah.
If only I could have a Continental GT.
Yeah.
But
maybe that's it. Maybe that's because people look at something like a Continental GT or maybe an Audi all-wheel drive car that's like a really nice performing vehicle and they seem kind of out of reach.
Yeah.
But the reality is a lot of those things depreciate so quickly that you could buy this beautiful driving sedan that is designed for bad roads. I mean, if it's going to be sold in Russia, it needs to survive bad roads. So something like a Continental GT, I bet you with some good tires and...
I think for me, Bentley is like a sentimental brand. When you look at like Peking to Paris, even the modern recreations, there's always, there's probably not Bentley blowers, but 3-liter Bentleys and 20s and 30s stuff. They were used as overland vehicles way back when because he didn't have the infrastructure.
Well, if you look at Lawrence of Arabia,
Rolls-Royce, that
was a Rolls-Royce 2-wheel drive.
You can get a Rolls-Royce. It's not the Corniche. It's the Silver Shadow 2.
Okay.
For like $5,000 if you look. Like for what some people pay for rooftop tents, you can get a Rolls-Royce.
There you go. And you can sleep in the back seat.
So maybe that's the direction we should go in this is like, what is the most obscure, crazy thing that you can drive for the cost of
a new rooftop?
An outfitted Tacoma? An outfitted Tacoma. I mean,
but that's a lot of money.
An outfitted Tacoma is $60,000 now.
Yeah, that's right. At least.
Realistically. Yeah.
That opens up pretty much any car.
I had some people telling me in Southern California that they were selling Tacomas for $20,000 over sticker for the TRD ones.
Yeah, because they just aren't available.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like the local Ford dealer has like that Bronco Sport, which is really just a Ford Escape and drag. They wanted a $5,000 market premium for that. It wasn't even like the cool one.
Yeah.
It's just like a car that you can currently actually buy.
Yeah.
And it was $5,000 over.
Yeah. They say 30% increase in used car prices in the last year.
Yeah.
So.
My friend Yusuf sent me this graph of everything.
Yeah. It's nuts.
That's
it's out
like
of control.
37% year over.
Well, when I just got the GMC AT4, they were just not available in any close configuration. So I just figured I'm going to order it. And then I waited the couple months and it showed up exactly how I wanted. And I think given the fact of used prices, you just buy a new one and wait and get exactly what you want.
What I would love to see happen from this, regular listeners of the podcast will know that I buy and sell cars all the time. I'm good at seeing market trends, and I'll buy a car, drive it for a little bit. Particularly lately, cars are going up. You buy something desirable before it's desirable, and you have a free car. That's what I do. I hate buying cars from dealers. It is the worst experience.
It is. It's very rough.
Ever. And I wonder if the auto industry was smart, why not just go on the website? I want this truck, and it shows up to your house like Teslas do.
Yeah, that'll happen. Isn't Carvana that way?
Carvana's used cars that does that. There's a few like that.
And people are having great experiences with that stuff.
Yeah.
They're buying off-lease vehicles that are in good shape, low mileage. They show up on a truck, on a tow truck, and they put it on your driveway.
And you can take it for a test drive. If you don't want it, they'll take it back for you. I think there's like a small fee or something, but it beats getting put into the room with the little finance guy who's like, well, if you don't buy this protection package, we're not going to be able to give you a good interest rate. Yeah. Like all of the just crap games that come along with it.
There's got to be some expiration date to that torture, I think.
Like have a service department. I mean, what happens when cars are becoming more and more and more reliable? Like when I was working for Land Rover over 10 years ago, even at that point, they were basically realizing that they needed to redesign how a lot of their dealerships function because they were used to having so many mechanics and so many cars working on them.
Yep.
Using Land Rover as the obvious example. Well, now Land Rovers become a lot more reliable and they don't have as many service guys. So cars continue to get more reliable. When's the last time your cell phone just quit working?
Yeah.
Like we used to see all of those cell phone repair shops.
Yep.
You don't really see those that much anymore.
Because they're waterproof now. And
the phones are waterproof. They have the crazy glass.
Yep.
When we start looking at electric cars, like what is the point of the dealership going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be very different. I mean, even like you said with Land Rover, I remember talking to Ray Donardi from Land Rover Las Vegas, and he said that
great guy.
Yeah, amazing.
If you're going to buy a new car,
that's the guy
buy it from Land Rover Las Vegas.
Exactly. And I remember talking to him about Land Rover reliability. He's like, Scott, I have 1/3, 30% of the techs I used to have.
Yeah. So
that means if you just take that as a simple translation, that Land Rovers are now 2/3 better in reliability than they used to be. So cars are so much better. And that's why I think like even this idea of taking cars around the world. I mean, think about all of the two-wheel drive vans, like you said, the Vanagons. And I don't think that we have to wrap our heads around so much. If you want to drive to Ushuaia, you can drive all the way to Ushuaia without needing a four-wheel drive. That is guaranteed. Now, you may get into a little bit of snow.
Yeah.
So you have to pay attention to that. So drive it in the right time of year. But the reality is if the goal is I want to go see South America and I want to do it as inexpensive as possible, you're probably better off doing it in a car.
Yeah. On the exact opposite of the affordable spectrum, Ferrari actually did the Pan American Highway maybe in 2005.
Okay.
In 612 Scagliettis.
That's amazing.
Another obscure choice. You can buy something don't do that with a Ferrari. That'd be bad. No one would buy it. What am I saying? In 2006, it was possible to take a very long wheelbase, 4-seat front engine V12 supercar from Ushuaia to the United States.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is there's also some really great roads along the way. So, I mean, I think about
you're changing what you're doing.
Yeah. You're going to focus on the coastal routes and these beautiful, I mean, I think about the time that I rode some Moto Guzzi's in Italy, and we did some dirt with it.
Yeah.
When we were in Sardinia, we did some dirt, but I don't even remember. I literally don't remember the dirt because the roads were so magic. It was a high point travel thing for me. It was just absolutely glorious. And to do that like in a Bentley Continental GT or in a Subaru, right, would be super fun because you could haul butt going around there.
Yeah. I mean, there's the list of obscure vehicles that have done traditional overland routes is pretty significant.
It is. Yeah.
There's a auto journo in Australia that took an R8 to Birdsville.
That's right. We featured that in Overland Journal years ago.
Yeah. There's
did Big Red with it.
Yeah. There's all kinds of crazy things that you can do. I mean, obviously, like that's not where we are delving into the world of an exhibition.
Total esoteric stuff.
Yeah. Like it's, again, let's work on that $60,000 budget of a Tacoma and all of the stuff that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess the benefit is that you then do have a place to sleep.
Yep.
But oftentimes you're paying for places to sleep.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in populated areas on the Pan American, like when I ran Panama Passage, like that was the place to camp in Panama City.
Yep.
If you needed to do all your stuff. 911 could be cool.
And I'm sure there's been a lot of around the world trips done with 911s.
The guy behind Fort Hill for Coffee did the Peking to Paris in a 912, which for the Porsche unwashed, that just means it's a 4-cylinder 911 from, I don't know, I guess those are 60s, 70s. There's a lot that you can do.
Because they're kind of like
a Volkswagen Beetle.
They're kind of like a Volkswagen Beetle, right? They're a rear engine.
Yeah.
Rear wheel drive, very lightweight.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, and we've even seen them modified, which, that starts to look ridiculous.
Well, that's why you start to see like the Rally 911, like the Safari, like Kevin Marshall has that Safari 911.
Yeah.
They just did that whole like several 100-mile off-road trip with all 911 air-cooled Safaris.
So fun.
No problems because they're very well-engineered cars.
Yeah, right.
Now, 911, we were having this conversation 5 or 10 years ago. You could have bought an air-cooled 911 for like the gum on the bottom of your
Birkenstock.
For this used Birkenstock.
Yeah.
I could have gotten an air-cooled 911. Now they're like
$100,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a good one is just crazy, but there are also not so collector 911s that you can still get for a bargain.
What would be some good examples of that?
Well, I mean, right now it's tough, but the 944 is still even though it has quadrupled in value, it's quadrupled in value from like $2,500 to $10,000.
Sure.
The 912 is still a decent value in that space. The 996, which is a water cooled car, is going up in value. I think they hit this point where they were old enough where they weren't cool. And then they still cost a lot to maintain. So they dipped and now people have maintained them and the prices kind of have gone back up.
Yeah.
And now for a quick break from one of our supporters, OnX Off-Road. If you're driving or riding on dirt this summer, don't leave home without the OnX Off-Road GPS app. For less than a tank of gas, get access to 550,000 miles of trails and roads and 985 million acres of public land for camping, fishing, exploring, and all of your outdoor adventures. OnX Off-Road maps are fully interactive, meaning you can tap anywhere on the map for detailed information. Check out featured trails for trail descriptions, photos, difficulty ratings, and more. Your maps will even work without cell coverage, so you never have to worry about getting lost. Go to onxoffroad.com and use the code OJ at checkout for 20% off right now. Thanks, Onyx.
But let's talk about not necessarily cars, but these crossover SUVs.
Mm-hmm.
That is, if you think of, if in the 1980s, the average shape of a car probably looked like a Crown Vic. Well, now it looks like an Audi Q3 or a Volkswagen Tiguan
they all look the same.
They all look the same, right? And they depreciate so much. You can get a Porsche Cayenne for $10,000
mm-hmm.
that has all-wheel drive and low range and air suspension.
You can get them with lockers, even
and a rear locker,
mm-hmm.
and they're actually made pretty well.
Yeah,
there's a lot of, I think, non-traditional things that you can look at.
But I think the crossover makes a lot of sense. It's kind of in that Subaru
realm
category where you can get a Honda CR-V, and if you look at the Element, the Element, I think was probably the best example of this.
The Elements.
You could get the little topper on it.
The E-Camper from Ursa Minor.
Yeah, that's right. So they had this cool little pop top that bolted onto the top of an Element. They were boxy little all-wheel drive.
Super cool, super functional.
And I know of people who've driven them all the way down through South America, including some off-road stuff.
They're Hondas.
Yeah.
I mean, Honda makes very good stuff.
Yeah, very good stuff.
Their stuff may not be marketed towards me. It may, because I'm not a Honda Odyssey buyer and I'm not a Honda Accord buyer. There's nothing wrong with those vehicles, but they're very good vehicles.
Very good vehicles, very high quality. I mean, think about it like a Honda 650 motorcycle. It's like classic thumper that runs forever. Yeah.
Until the end of the
end
world.
Of days. Yeah, exactly.
30 years or something with all the fires that we're having,
but I think on that, if you were to, let's say we take any sedan, like even for me, I would say that the thing that first comes to mind is one of those diesel Mercedes sedans or the Bentley Continental. That would be my two choices.
Because one's just eccentric, but also still a very well-made car.
So, and the reason why I would pick that Mercedes is when I first got into software consulting, I show up, they had a new Chevy Impala that they were going to have me drive as my company vehicle. The guy who ran the office drove this old W123 Mercedes diesel. And I'm like, well, because I did not want to drive the Impala. I said, well, I'm the new guy and I probably shouldn't have the new car. Does he want the new car? And I'll take the old Mercedes. And he was like, and of course he was like, yeah, I'll take the new car. And I ended up exactly what I wanted, which was he got the new car and I got exactly what I wanted, which was this old Mercedes sedan. Other than the fact that occasionally the door locks didn't work because they were vacuum operated, this thing, it had been part of the company for decades, so long that the odometer stopped working, like a decade before I started driving it. And I drove it for years and years and years. And it was absolutely wonderful. Like everything about it.
So that's like your sentimental car.
It is. And that if I was to say, I'm going to go buy a car and go do like a fun overland route, like an obscure car, it would be that Mercedes, little diesel, little turbo diesel, classic 1980s Mercedes sedan, or maybe the wagon because you could sleep in the back of it. But that would be my choice. But if I think about what I would do to it, I would probably just put a couple skid plates under it just to protect the soft bits.
Yeah.
And then make sure that I've got the eyelet toe points on it, just in case I got to get pulled out of something. Throw some Max Tracks in the back, have a couple duffel bags, and then maybe you sleep in it every once in a while. But for the most part, I would just go into little villages and stay there.
Yeah.
Just make it all about make it nothing to do with the car. It's literally like taking a taxi.
Just about all the culture.
Yeah. And you just make it literally about the places that you're going to go to, and no one's going to notice it. They're not going to notice you at the border crossings. The cops aren't going to pull you over. Yeah. I think so. For me, other than the Bentley Continental, because there is a lot of appeal to that, I think that it would be the Mercedes. So what would be your cheap solution and what would be your Uber solution?
I have to think of this because I joined Expedition Portal when I was like 14. So my entire life has just been overland trucks. Or stupid sports cars. So what do we define as cheap? Like what's my ceiling here?
Let's call it 12 grand.
12 grand.
Because I think that's about what you can get those Mercedes. A nice, clean Mercedes.
And it like has to actually make it to, let's just say Ushuaia.
Yeah.
Miata.
That would be fun.
100%.
That would be perfect.
Pick the thing up if you get stuck.
That would be perfect.
Treat it like a motorcycle trip. That's probably what I would take.
That would be so fun. And then just stay in cool little hostels and hotels and eco resorts or whatever.
Oftentimes, when traveling, I've found probably the cheapest way to do it is in hostels and the occasional hotel with, augmented with a backpacking tent.
Yeah.
All of that is 100% doable in a Miata, and they're very reliable. They get
crazy good gas mileage.
If you're Emmy Hall, you can lift.
She does have a cool lifted one. That's right. Yeah. You guys got to check out Emmy Hall on Instagram. She's got this lifted Mazda Miata, and she's an amazing human being, a journalist.
Accomplished racer, accomplished journalist, writes for CNET. What would my crazy?
I like the Miata one. That's good.
My expensive car that I would take around the world would be a 911.
That would be sweet. That would be so sweet. So legit too, right?
Yeah, they're very practical. They're very well made. That would be it.
Is it? And you would want a recent one, or you'd want an older 911?
They're all good.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
So then, if they were all good, what do you think would be the solution?
I have very little experience with air-cooled cars. I've never owned one.
Yeah.
It was actually the first car I drove was an air-cooled 911 with my uncle, but that's the last time I drove one was when I was very, very, very young. So
yeah,
I would probably go with a 997.
Okay. So that what year time frame
That's
is that?
2005 to 2012.
Okay.
They're a little bit higher.
Okay.
Their overhangs are a little bit less.
Are they coil sprung cars or are they air? Or how do they set up the suspension on it?
They do have coil springs. Yeah. Yeah. No 911s, to my knowledge, have ever had air suspension.
Okay.
Although some of them have that front lift, press a button and it usually raises it about 50 millimeters.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of the newer 911s are just so low to the ground.
That's my concern. Yeah.
That would be a problem, where like a 997, you could buzz around in one of those pretty easy.
And you'd go coupe or soft top? What would you go?
I would do a coupe because I'm not a psychopath. I
wasn't aware of that.
I don't know anybody who drives cabriolet 911s.
Okay.
They're just like they're driving the same car, but they're not the same people.
Gotcha.
It's like okay. It's like
think
Land
of it.
Rovers.
We've learned so much today on this podcast.
Yeah. Opinionated Matt as usual. So there's Land Rover people. Okay, there's the people who buy Land Rovers new.
Right.
And then there's Land Rover enthusiasts.
Right. And they're rarely the same people.
They are not the same people.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. That's coupe versus cabriolet in the 911
I gotcha.
world.
Okay.
They can sell for half as much. Like they're I don't want to say they're undesirable, but the cheapest 911s are
always the convertibles. Interesting.
convertible automatics, the Tiptronics.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. This is good to know.
So until they went PDK. Okay. So Matt's really
So
into Porsches.
I don't know what a PDK is. So tell me.
Porsche Doppelkupplung or something. It's a dual clutch Porsche gearbox in German, because in American we would just say dual clutch.
Yeah.
In German, it's 87 words put together.
So many syllables.
Yeah. Love those German engineers though.
Yeah. They make amazing stuff.
So it would be a 911 for me. It'd be a manual.
Did they make a 911 all-wheel drive?
They do. Every 911 since 89
Okay.
with the 964 has been available with an all-wheel drive.
So would you do that? Would you go with an all-wheel drive just because of snow and you want to go skiing?
Maybe. Like a Carrera 4 or Carrera 4S would be really fun. Again, I don't have much experience. I did drive Brian Doerr's 911 Turbo, which is turbo engine, but it would be the same chassis and driveline.
That's all-wheel drive, isn't it?
Yeah, I just like the way the rear-wheel drive ones go.
Yeah.
I'm only saying this because you already took the Bentley. I mean,
well, you can pick the Bentley.
Okay, so let's talk Bentley here. Air suspension.
It's true.
The little center console right in front of the cup holders. You've got 3 different ride height settings. You have different shock settings, and this is for the older ones. You have
a V12.
You have actually it's a W12. It's essentially
W12. Sorry, yeah.
It's essentially 2 VR6 Volkswagen Scirocco motors with a common crankcase.
Oh wow!
That engine was actually initially designed to be a W18 for an Audi supercar project. And then it got shortened into production into a W8, a W12, and a W16 for the Veyron.
Wow. It's good to know. It is fascinating.
The things you need to know in overlanding. But okay, yeah. So you can put a light truck tire on those cars. They are so big and so heavy, they ride on SUV tires, unless you decide to go for performance summer tires. I mean, you can put a Pirelli Scorpion tire on there. So that's a huge advantage to that vehicle. You have the air suspension, so you can run up to 45 mile an hour with a 2-inch lift.
Wow.
That's huge. They're very well made.
They look fantastic.
They look fantastic. They send all of the wrong signals. They're going to be impossible to fix.
Yeah.
But they don't really break that much.
I've heard
they're very
good.
well made. You know, the Bentley thing is that
it's a 200 mile an hour overland vehicle.
Yeah. That you can get for less money than a used. What generation Tacoma are we on now? 3rd gen?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a buddy at the Windsock in Prescott that I drink at. He just got a 2015 TRD Sport or whatever. Nice truck. Like 40,000 miles on it for $36,000. Go on Google right now. And I guarantee you that you can find a Bentley with less miles for the same or less money.
And you have a W12.
And you have a W12.
And you can go 200 miles an hour in it.
Yeah.
We're just on a track, of course.
Listen, or we have been given a license on this to be obscure.
Yeah.
We're talking about cars. Yeah. Like if you want practical advice, get a Subaru, get a Corolla. We covered that in the first 4 seconds of this podcast. So when I get tweeted at, Matt, you're so pretentious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
well, because we're talking theoretical, right? So if you're theoretically pretentious, that's just because you're having fun with an idea, right?
I did theoretically own a Bentley for a while, but I did theoretically also make money on it.
Yeah. So it didn't cost you anything. So it's not pretentious at all. It's smart.
Took it down Last Dollar Ranch Road and Telluride. That was kind of fun. Did have 22s though.
Ouch.
I didn't like the 22s, but it had Pirelli Scorpions on it. Like it's, I don't know.
Because it's a heavy car. They're like, they weigh as much as a G-Wagon.
They are eligible for Section 179 rapid depreciation because they are considered a commercial vehicle. They're that heavy. They have a gross vehicle weight of over 6,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm. That's why many people own them.
That's why. Yeah.
So we've now talked about our cheapest and our favorite. What would probably be the best though? Like if we were to not do the cheapest and not the ultimate.
The best car that you could buy today to drive around the world, in my opinion, E-Class E450 all-terrain wagon.
Yeah, there you go.
E-Classes are sold everywhere. That's new.
And Mercedes is serviceable essentially in any country of the world.
Yeah.
They're driven by diplomats. They're driven by taxi drivers. They're driven by politicians.
Mm-hmm.
So
what would the cheap one be? Corolla.
Yeah, either that or like a RAV4 or a CRV. I think those would be really nice choices because they are a little bit taller.
Yeah.
You can do some sandy tracks and things like that.
Laura had a RAV4 when we lived in Ridgeway, and
really nice little car.
I'm going hiking here. Like, you drove up that. Oh, okay, cool. You're at Prattleville. Oh,
exactly.
Okay, so you don't need a Jeep to. Well, that's before it opens again.
Yeah.
You can run as far as you want on Black Bear.
Oh, but you see Subarus, Cinnamon, and all those pass totally do.
Yeah. So maybe that's the thing.
Subaru, CRV.
I think I'm going to throw an alternative in here for an affordable car is a Model 3.
Oh,
purchase price is a little bit more. No fuel. Very, very, very little maintenance. You can sleep inside of them. You can plug them in at a campground. So you can go to a campground,
and
you can get, like Bruce Dorn was telling me about this guy that he ran into somewhere in the Navajo reservation had I'm going to say it was I think it was a Model 3.
Okay. Because they're all-wheel drive.
Yeah. So he'd go and he'd get his 15 or 30 amp service campsite.
Yep.
That, has your showers and your toilets and your water and all your stuff.
So less than a tank of gas.
Yeah.
You've now got a campsite and you've topped off your vehicle.
You're not, when you're traveling, you're not driving more than 300 to 350 miles a day.
Right.
I mean, if you're doing that long term, you're blowing by everything. And those things also have the ability to like put serious range in short amounts. But you have a air conditioned and heated campsite because you can sleep in the back, and apparently they have this camping mode. You can just leave the.
Oh yeah. Or like the dog mode where it just keeps it temperature controlled.
So
that's brilliant because you're plugged in. You're not using any fuel and you're charging at the same time. That's so smart. But that's what it's going to be. Think about it. I mean, we've got the Hummer EV. We've got Mercedes just made the statement today that within the decade, they're going to be all electric in their sedan. All their cars will be electric.
The new EQS just launched. Bassam was out in Zurich. My buddy Bassam Wassef, he was out in Zurich driving that. He's like, it's another level.
Yeah.
It's a different motoring experience.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for electric cars.
And they're coming. So
yeah, I'm not saying that I'm not going to still own big, dirty, massive, beautiful V8s.
Yeah. Or W12s or whatever they may be. But I think that for a lot of us, a Rivian or a Hummer EV, something that has, and they're going to have 500 miles range, they're going to get there.
Yeah.
And there's no
Tesla's already there.
Yeah.
The world's fastest production car, 0 to 60 right now, is the Plaid.
Yeah.
The Model S Plaid. Like, it's a Spaceballs joke. We're going so fast, we've gone Plaid.
Yeah.
1.9 seconds, 0 to 60. It's like $120,000, which is a lot of money. But the car that most closely matches its performance, or there's two. There's the Bugatti Chiron or a 911 Turbo S.
Yeah. And how much do those cost? Anywhere from 3 to
like a Turbo
more.
S, I think starting price is $191,000.
Okay, so that's closer than I thought it would be.
The Chiron, were you invited to buy one? It doesn't matter.
They don't have the price listed. Yeah.
But that car has the Model S Plaid has a 520 mile range.
Yeah.
So soon we're going to be at the point where all electric cars have to beat is what humans can drive in a day.
Yeah.
So, there's always that one dude that's like, well, when I go to my dad when we were kids. And it's like, I'm not even getting out to go to the bathroom from Illinois to Florida. Like you might have to stop.
Yeah.
But you had to stop for gas.
Yeah,
at
sure.
these sketchy gas stations.
Sure. Yeah, you have to
Gasoline
stop
all over.
and eat, so you stop, you plug in your car, you eat a nice lunch, and then you get back in it and off you go.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. So, and then the fact that you could be in camping mode with the AC running, the heater running, totally comfortable inside it. That's going to be awesome.
Well, supposedly the Cybertruck's going to have that little, the option for the camper on the back if we ever see that. But the Rivian is very, very appealing to me.
Yep. And the Bezos space thing that just happened a few days ago, he drove out to the launch site in a Rivian.
Did he?
Yep.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Everybody is being on Jeff Bezos right now.
Yeah. It's a new frontier.
When you're going to be the world's first trillionaire, or maybe he already is. Isn't he already?
No, I don't think so.
You just have different interests. Like Jeff Bezos buying a rocket is like an average American buying like Starbucks.
Yeah. Yeah. He has spent $1 billion a year for the last decade to be able to go on a flight into space.
Yeah, but we have to do that as humanity.
No question.
I get into this conversation with electric cars. It's like electric's a nice short-term solution, but eventually we will mine all of the lithium.
Yeah. And it's going to have to be hydrogen or something that can be renewable.
It has to be a legit renewable resource.
Yeah.
But on that same regard, we will always eventually run out of this planet. So if we don't have people that are pushing the boundaries literally to get us elsewhere, as a species, we don't survive.
Yep. It doesn't affect our lifetime.
Then the house sparrow will run Earth.
Yeah.
And we'll run, and then in like 12 million years, we'll have this alien, house sparrow invasion. That was crazy. It's a very successful species. People think because it's ordinary that it's not successful.
Yeah, there you go. It has been successful.
Knowledge by Matt today. We should probably end this.
It was brilliant.
Cool.
So just think about that. Subaru, no modifications, drive it around the world. If you do that, Matt and I will both find some way to make it very much worth your while to come on the podcast and talk about it.
So think about that. Subaru Crosstrek, probably average selling price, $25,000.
Yep.
A loaded one is $28,000. You can drive it out of the box. You don't have to buy tires. You don't have to buy anything. I mean, maybe buy some, I think Falcon's got those Wild Peak
slightly
tires. Like I'd probably do that.
Couple little skid plates.
Drive it to South America, drive it back.
Yep.
And then you're going to sell your $28,000 Subaru you bought new with 50,000 miles. You're going to sell it for like 27 right now, or it's a used car. So probably like $800,000.
Yeah.
And use all the rest of the money to do your trip.
Yep. Exactly.
Think of what a Tacoma could cost.
Yep.
Even a used Tacoma.
It's just worth considering. And that's why we wanted to talk about this on this podcast is we don't always have to have the most extreme solution to an average problem, which if the problem is I want to drive from here to South America and I don't really need to do a lot of off-roading or I don't really care to, then start off with something that's really comfortable to drive on the road and is going to cost you a lot less money. Yeah. And you're going to kind of have a different experience than looking super expedition-y. Yeah. Which I think is a good thing. Yeah. And thank you all for listening. And send us some feedback or ideas. If you've got your ultimate car or you've been driving your ultimate car down to Ushuaia and you want to send us some pictures and a little update, we'll talk about it on a future episode. But you can reach Matt at Matt Explorer on Instagram, and you can reach me, scott.a.brady on Instagram, or you can go directly to @Overland Journal on Instagram and send your feedback in there. And we'll talk to you guys next time.